everybody. Welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. I'm so glad you're here. You guys love my guest today. I know because you're always writing in and telling me about it. And he's back. Dr. Mark Sherwood's going to be joining me in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to be answering listener questions. You guys are going to love this episode. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. Today's podcast is being sponsored by my friends at Tuvu. You guys know how much I don't like social media, and these guys have really created a social media platform that's family friendly and doesn't have all the garbage in it, and they're not using algorithms to determine what you see. So check it out, tuvu.com. You're not going to see a single ad as you scroll through posts. Your data is never going to be sold to advertisers, and it's a platform that you can feel good about letting your kids on. You guys can join me by going to tuvu.com/Heidi, and you'll get the first month free. After that, it's $4.99 a month. And be sure and look for me when you're on there and follow me, tuvu.com/Heidi. Well, you guys, you know that I love getting questions from you, and we get them all the time. And Dr. Mark Sherwood's been coming on my show now for quite a while. We met when we were both running for office in our respective states, and I have come to love and admire him so much. And I know that you guys too, because you guys do too, because you keep sending us questions. We've got great questions today, and Dr. Mark Sherwood's joining me back on the show. Hi, my friend. Welcome back.
Hey, it's great to see you. It's an honor to be here with you. I'm excited about Tuvu. I had to get on there and try that myself. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, get on Tuvu and I'll follow you.
Perfect. We'll be able to answer questions and encourage each other going back and forth.
Yes. Okay, I'll look for you. I will absolutely look for you. I'm real tired of social media. I'm real tired of Facebook, for goodness sake. Man. So happy for another lane. Yeah. All right, I've got tons of questions here, and I think they're in front of you too. Yes. Are you ready? You want me to just jump right in?
Rapid fire. Let's just go for it.
Rapid fire. All right, let's go. Mary in Montana. She says, this is for Dr. Mark, but then she says, but hi, Heidi. Now I'm just like an afterthought. Hi, Mary. She says her dad was recently diagnosed with DISH in his hips, and he's been in near constant agony and having trouble doing the things he loves. He's been walking, trying to strengthen himself. The doctors told him there's nothing more that can be done, but I refuse to believe that. Would a functional medicine doctor tell him any differently? Is there something my very active dad can do to minimize the pain? Thank you for the time and everything you do. Blessings and love, from Mary in Montana.
Well, Mary in Montana, thank you for your question. And your dad, bless his heart, I appreciate and honor him walking and trying to get his way through that. The idea that DISH diagnosis is one that's a very debilitating, negative outcome process of muscular deterioration. And it really is one that doesn't have much hope from the medical side. And I think you know that. I think you've already heard that. But I'm going to give you a little bit another side of the coin that I think might be a little bit different. I'm going to give you some hope, because I don't know about functional medicine, but I know Mark's going to give you some hope. So I'm going to give you some hope here. And I think there's a couple things that you want to try to do. One, I'm going to give you some peptides to look at. One is called IGF-LR3. IGF-LR3. And the other one is going to be called BPC-157. Both of those have sort of, and I guess one more actually, thymosin, THYMOSIN, beta-4. And if it was my dad with DISH, I would be doing all three of those things, because you have the ability to repair tissues, repair muscles, repair ligaments, and also repair nerves. All of those could be very, very helpful for your father. Would they take that disease process and reverse it? We don't know. But we've got to hang on to some hope, Mary. You know, we got to hang on to hope, and the human body is capable of doing some extraordinary things despite what doctors may say.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, you know, like I said last time you were here, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on my podcast. But I have to say, I have read, because I have struggled with pain in my joints my entire life, and I've been reading more about red light therapy, infrared sauna lights. You can get a sauna bag now. Have you seen these, Mark? Have you tried this yet? So it's like infrared sauna, but in a bag. You can either lay on it right? And you can get in it. Have you seen those?
I have. I was at the biohacking conference a few months ago, and they were displaying those things. Extraordinary. And I think even on the opposite side of the thing, that actually stimulates heat shock therapy, which can stimulate healing and reducing inflammation. But you also got the cold plunge concept too, which can help with inflammation. So doing both of those, I think is a real viable option. And so, saunas, we are just, so you'll know, we're installing our new sauna at present in our home.
On. Is it an infrared? What is it?
Infrared sauna. It's a 2-person one because I'm going to get in there with my wife, and we're just going to sit out and chill out and sweat together.
I love that. I love that. Well, I'm moving, as you know, and I have a 2-person sauna, and there's no room for it in the new house. I can't put it in my bedroom, and I just know that if it's not there, I'm not going to use it. So that's what kind of got me looking at different ways to get that infrared light therapy, because it has been life-changing for me in terms of inflammation. And when I heard about this, her dad, who just sounds like such a sweetheart and just struggling so much, I thought, man, I wonder if that'd be helpful. And it sounds like you're an infrared sauna fan.
I give my endorsement to that. And those bags, I haven't used one yet, but I was going to try to use one, but the line was so big, I didn't want to stand in it. But the data looks pretty good on them, and it does the same thing. It's all about creating the infrared to go inside the tissues and stimulate the cell wall to respond to that.
Yeah, so amazing, the different things that are coming out right now. Another thing I want to ask you about is the vibration plates. So that's another kind of I bet that was at your biohacking event, because I was just speaking at an event where President Trump was a couple weeks ago in West Palm Beach, Florida. And there was a guy there selling like a power plate. What do you think about that?
Those have extraordinary data behind them for people that cannot go and do your conventional type of exercising. The thing about those is you can actually get on those things, and I've done that myself several times. When I go to a facility that has those, I will always spend about 10 minutes, in and out on that. You can actually get on those things, and what happens is there's stabilities or flexor muscles around your muscles. So it's not just you moving like in a squatting position, it's actually stability around the squatting position. So it actually stimulates all muscles around the joints, etc. So there's a ton of things you can do. That you can go stand on it. People that don't have a lot of ability or physical limitations, outstanding. Just go stand on it. There's rails there. You can hold on to it. They're great. But if you want to sort of press it a little bit, you can do some squats on it. You can stand there and do little curls on it. Big believer in that as well. I think it sort of cuts down the time that people might need to spend at the gym and make it really effective. You can also put those in your home pretty easy, because they only take up about probably a 3x3 space.
Yeah, it's not much. And I read that it can really help with muscle memory. So if you're trying to sort of get back to where you were, if you've lost muscle for whatever reason, that it can help with that.
Oh, totally. They can. It's really an interesting process that they've got there. Those have actually been around for a long time. I'm going to say probably 20 years at least. And they came out, were very popular, and then people forgot about them. But I think they're outstanding, man. And
they're making a resurgence, because I feel like I've seen them at the last couple of conferences I've been at. It's kind of a fascinating thing. Yeah, amazing. This question came from YouTube. And I love it when people ask questions via YouTube. She says she's got a question. She's a 27-year-old woman who's had acne every day since she was 11. Not cystic acne and not extreme, but consistent over all of her face, red bumps, whiteheads, flares up slightly before her period. And when she was pregnant 2 years ago, it persisted and didn't change throughout pregnancy or postpartum. She says she doesn't have crazy hormonal swings. She's average healthy weight. She's not gluten intolerant. She doesn't have allergies. She says she washes her face regularly with clean, natural cleanser. She uses a silk pillowcase. She drinks tons of water. She watches her sugar. Feels like she's done everything. But she still has this issue, and she doesn't know what to do. She's like, what in the world could it still be? She's done everything. Probiotics, turmeric, vitamins. My goodness, she's tried it all, Mark.
Well, it's interesting. There's a couple different angles here to think about with this one. One is going to be, there's an enzyme that I want you to look up. It's called 5-alpha reductase, and it drives testosterone down a pathway and creates what's called DHT, or dihydrotestosterone. And that, when that gets activated, and some people have a genetic predisposition to sort of have a fast enzyme there, when that gets activated, we tend to have more acne, those adrenal hormone or those sex hormone acnes from testosterone. So that's an area to kind of examine. If you have that going on, believe it or not, there's prostate formulas out there that can actually slow that thing down. Crazy. I know you don't have a prostate, but hey, listen to me. This is really cool.
Hey, man, it's 2024.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
These days, you never know, man. Different strokes for different folks.
That's
there may be somebody out there that identifies with having a prostate. I don't know. But, saw palmetto and nettles, those are two things that can help reduce the 5-alpha reductase. And if you need to, if you want to go down the medicinal pathway, there's something called spironolactone that can actually stop that enzyme from functioning as well. So there's two angles there for you, one from nutraceutical and one from a pharmaceutical. The other is a lot of ladies, have like PCOS. You might look for that because a PCOS person will produce a lot of those androgens, like this testosterone, and you'll also produce a lot of insulin, which can actually drive that enzyme faster too. In that case, you want to make sure you watch the diet, anti-inflammatory diet, and even look at taking a little bit of berberine, maybe 500 milligrams twice a day.
All right. Good advice. Leah in Alaska says her son has level 3 autism, which is sometimes called severe. Does diet really matter or help these kids with special needs? My husband doesn't think it makes any difference, but I disagree. What does Dr. Mark think about diets for autism? Thank you so much for your wisdom and wanting to help people.
Well, Leah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your even inquiry to believe there's something better. Diets do help. Autistic persons do not methylate well. Supplements help, specifically B vitamins, including active folate, and even methylated B12. So look at methylfolate, methyl B12, and get your son on those things yesterday, like now. But when you take an anti-inflammatory food protocol that has a lot of good proteins in it and reduces the sugars and things like that, you're going to have some change that is noticeable in the behavior. Will it be something that's noticeable? And most times the answer is yes. Additionally, there's a lot of research going on there. I don't know if you have it up there in Alaska, but there's also some research that indicates that IV therapy can be helpful for the autistic person as well. Again, pushing in periodically some B vitamins. So think B vitamins, methylated B vitamins specifically, and then cleaning up the diet with less sugars, and you'll probably have some good effect because there is some data out there that indicates that.
Well, and we're seeing autism's on the rise. I mean, it's just it's heartbreaking to read so many people struggling with this, and we're seeing more and more of it coming out every day in the news. I mean, goodness sake. I'm gonna take a break from the medical questions. I'm gonna throw a political question at you because I know you like that. I know you do.
I'm good, man.
So
ready to go.
It's kind of amazing what's happening with Joe Biden, right? They basically took his presidency away from him. Right. They said, sorry, you can't run. We pick, you don't. Super weird for the people who say they care about democracy. But Donald Trump just said something, that I think other people are like, yeah, you right. And I was reading this article on PJ Media, so I'm going to quote this to you and then get your thoughts on it. Right. I don't know if you ever read PJ Media, but there's a guy named Stephen Green who writes for them. He's fantastic. And he says, I said it out loud. I'm sure you've said it out loud, but it's one thing for a private citizen like you or me to say it, and quite another for a former and likely future president to say it out loud on camera, in public, for the whole world to hear and see. It was a glorious thing to say, too, and for more than just one obvious reason, and that it happens to be true. This is what he said. Donald Trump said, the presidency was taken away from Joe Biden. He said this to reporters just today at a press conference he did in Mar-a-Lago. And Biden had insisted, of course, he's going to run for a second term. The party accommodated him until it didn't. What do you make of what is happening in American politics right now?
Well, they're a mess, but I believe, honestly, this is exactly what happened. I believe they they, meaning the Democratic Party, the leaders that be, whoever those 5 or 6 people are, I'm being funny about that.
Right.
But ultimately, they were going to be fine with that until they realized that the polls were going south, they were going to lose, and then they had to make a decision. And I believe they got together, and I believe they formed a coup and actually went against that man. Now, having said that, I thought he should have not ran anyway. I've said that before because of his condition. I thought his family should have pulled the plug on that a long time ago, but they didn't. But I think that's exactly what happened, and I think they pulled him out of that position. And I think it's about, there's a lot of wrongs here, and one wrong, 2 wrongs, 3 wrongs, it doesn't make it right. It's all wrong. And I think we're in trouble on this kind of concept, because when you look at it from the standpoint, when he's saying one day, I'm running.
Yep.
And then 2 days later, he says he's out, and media leaks about people meeting with him. I don't think there was just meeting. I think there was probably people in meeting with him and saying, you know what, we're going to pull our money away from you. And it was all, I really believe that. It was all about money. It was about power. And he wasn't going to win, so they wanted to maintain power. So they just kind of just moved him out of the way to get their own hand-picked situation.
And it's amazing who they put in his place. I mean, Kamala Harris has the worst approval rating of any VP in the history of the United States. And the legacy media is trying to gaslight everybody into thinking that she's amazing and she walks on water. And now she's picked Tim Walz, who is the most far-left progressive guy in the Senate right now. I mean, this guy is crazy. Like, he's a self-avowed socialist. He wants communist policies implemented in the United States. We should be terrified about this. And we watch a Republican Party in disarray. And you said sort of quietly to me a few minutes ago, shoot fire. We don't get our act together, we're going to wind up with this knucklehead in the White House.
Heidi, if we don't get our act together, that's exactly what's going to happen. And I'll say it because we need to be more grown up to this. You can't attack a crazy person. I mean, think about this. If you argue with a lunatic or argue with an insane person, what good is that going to get you? Nowhere. Because it doesn't do anything. We're going to have to quit arguing with that thing that you just mentioned, the lack of accomplishment, the lack of leadership, socialistic views, and start really painting clearly the parallel differences. What does a Trump presidency look like? What's that going to be? Why is that different? And you got to be so literal. Spell it out for people right now. Spell it out for people, because people today are so emotionally driven.
Right. And here's, instead we're talking about whether or not Kamala is black or Indian.
Yeah, that's not going to solve anything.
It's just such a poor use of our time and our emotions and everything else to be even talking about this stuff. The guy she picked for her running mate, I mean, honestly, I wanted to kind of send her a Valentine for it. This guy is crazy. Tim Walz is crazy. He's the guy who presided over all the riots in Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Republicans need to know what a trap is, and to continue to walk in traps that are laid out there, because the Obamas, Pelosi of the world, they knew that if they put Kamala Harris out there, they knew the style of attack in the Republicans, and they knew it was going to be a trap. They knew it, and we saw it. We talked about that. It was a no-win situation. Don't go insulting there because, black, Indian, woman, whatever that is.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, we're Americans, but you get my point.
Right.
That was going to be a disaster any way you look at it. And the media is going to spin that.
Yep. You can't win. No win.
Yep.
No win. I think it's really important. People need to start doing their homework. I mean, Kamala is an obvious train wreck, but the fact that she picked Tim Walz to be her running mate shows you how far left these guys are. Tim Walz was the guy who shut down churches in Minnesota. Yep. He set up a snitch line for Minnesotans to tattle on their neighbors for violating his deranged COVID instructions during COVID. This guy is an authoritarian to the hilt. And he doesn't have any, he seems anyway, not to have any common sense about him. I listened to Kamala Harris, a couple of quotes which they're trying to bury on the internet. She wants to get rid of private insurance, just get rid of it completely. She's terrible on the border. She's terrible economically. She thinks the cloud, did you see some of those go by, Margaret? She's trying to describe to people what the cloud is. And she's like, so your information's not on your laptop. It's up here in the sky. In a cloud. And I'm like, oh my word, someone do something quickly. This is where we are right now. This is where we are.
Yeah, we better shape up. Honestly, I hope that the Republican Party will listen and mature up and be high level, clear, very descriptive about the issues at hand, the problems we have, the solutions. And they need to be clear about what the solutions are going to be, not just the problems. You can't continue to talk about the problems.
Right.
Give me a solution, man. How are you going to fix it?
Come on. That's what I like about you. Because you're a hope dealer. I mean, you saw something going on in Oklahoma. Instead of sitting there and screaming and yelling and fidgeting about it, you ran for governor. And that's what people need to do. It's like, quit your whining and do something. For goodness sake, bunch of armchair warriors we got going on. Oh, it's so frustrating. I'm going to keep going.
Monday morning quarterbacks.
Monday morning quarterbacks. So frustrating. Anonymous in California. Dear Dr. Mark, my 6-year-old daughter has been struggling with constipation, and I have already removed dairy from her diet. What else can I do to help her get back on track? Now, I think this is a great question. We get this question frequently from adults too. So talk us through. Maybe don't just hit on the 6-year-old, but talk to everybody who's like leaning in, going, "Oh, hey, I bought a squatty potty and it didn't work."
All right. When you constipation, when you talk about the transit of waste products through the system, that whole transit process has several requirements to it. And one of the requirements is magnesium. And I've talked about this many, many times. Magnesium is the one area you go to. Now, there's many different forms. There's magnesium orotate, magnesium threonate, magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, and there's magnesium oxalate or oxide. So what I'm talking about with that is you got to get magnesium in there.
The right kind.
You have to get magnesium no matter what. And probably with the child, I'd start off at about 100 milligrams and maybe bump up to 2 and get that. You can get that in there probably in a nice multivitamin that might be a little liquid, and sometimes you might need to know a little magnesium citrate, which is a powder form. You can get that, put it in a drink.
So when she's talking about constipation, then is she talking about glycinate, citrate, threonate? What kind of magnesium does she want?
I like glycinate as an all-cause consistent form. Now, if people have an acute situation that's really, really bad, you can go straight to citrate because that's a little more action with bowel laxity.
All right. So, and she said she already took dairy out of her diet. Anything else that she can do?
Yeah, sometimes it's gluten. I look at gluten a lot in situations like that because the old system, it is not gluten itself that's the problem, as a general rule. It's the volume of gluten that's been put in foods today. It's the volume of that protein, and it's actually so much that it creates a lot of stomach agitation, inflammation in the GI tract. So that actually slows down things. It makes sense if the stomach and the GI tract is all inflamed. Of course, it's like not knowing how to get things even broken down, much less get rid of them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right. And honestly, like you and I have said before, it's difficult when you're working with Dr. Google. Right, you get on there, and she's going to put in her, her poor little 6-year-old's issue, and she's going to have 7,000 people coming at her with 7,000 different ideas.
Now, with her, I would go magnesium glycinate, and I'd get it. 6-year-old, I'd get it in a powder form, and I'd put a little tiny bit in some water, and just have them drink that. Like start with 100 milligrams, and I'd probably give it maybe 3 or 4 hours. And if the bowels don't loosen up, I would give another 100 milligrams. And if I find that 200 milligrams is kind of the magic formula, so to speak, I might start with 200 milligrams on a daily basis. And then if it ever gets loose and gets where it's more diarrhea, you might want to cut it down a little bit, but you're going to need some magnesium there, no question.
All right. Anonymous in California says she's getting chronic yeast infections. Her daughter wants her to use a fluconazole treatment. I don't know if I said that right. I never can get these big words right with you. For 6 months, will this help?
Yeah, fluconazole is kind of an antifungal, and that can help, yes, but that wouldn't be my first go-to, honestly, Anonymous in California. I'd probably go with more of a supplement to have more of a prevention kind of concept to kind of build up in your system, I like UTI Synergy quite nicely. We use it a lot. It's a nice little chewable form. It works outstanding. Just take that on a routine basis and you should be in really good shape. Additionally, pay attention to triggers, things that can get, yeast or moldy things, kind of pay attention to your diet, and also know that sometimes sugars can feed that process as well.
Lindsay in Arizona has a 14-year-old son who is very small for his age and not showing any signs of puberty. She says they did blood work a year ago. His complete thyroid panel looked good, as well as growth hormones. Her question is there any way to stimulate puberty or growth without using human growth hormones? We've been giving him zinc, magnesium, D3, K2, selenium, and iodine for over a year, hoping to stimulate his growth and thyroid function, and he is becoming discouraged because of his size.
Well, Lindsay, I echo that. 14 years old is a little unique to not have reached puberty, and I'm sure it being in middle school right now, other little kids have a bunch of hair on their underarms and they're getting big, and he's not. I'm sure that's a problem. There is a peptide out there called kisspeptin, KISSPEPTIN, that does stimulate puberty. That's exactly what that peptide is. So you might want to get with your endocrinologist, and if they hadn't heard about it, you can find it out there. There's plenty of data on that. That would be something that would be warranted for perhaps initiating, and that will get it going. We've had a little bit of success with that over the course of time. We don't deal with it a whole lot because you don't see it a lot, right? You don't see this situation like yours, Lindsay, but certainly that would be, as a parent, what I would look at as well.
And I think, I think too, for this mom, I mean, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I can speak from a mom's perspective on this. I feel like it's just going to be so important for you just to make sure your son knows that he's gorgeous the way he is. I think so
Amen.
Often, we're dealing with this in the culture right now. It's really hard on women, young girls in particular. And we always have this ideal that we're aspiring to. And it seems to me, I was just talking, I don't know who it was, one of my daughters maybe the other day, just about how hard the world is on young people right now. Thank you, social media. Thank you to, the magazines and all those things. And then you've got a kid who maybe doesn't feel like I'm the norm. And that's compounded by what we see on social media. So, Mom, he needs your encouragement too, that God's got a purpose for him. You're doing everything you can. And, I love that you wrote into Dr. Mark, keep loving your son so that he loves himself right where he is. Because there are always challenges, right, Mark? I mean, there are always points in our lives when we look in the mirror and we don't like what we see, or we're discouraged by one thing or another. And we got to keep our eyes focused in a different place.
Yeah, and then the whole development of a human is up to God. It's made by God, birthed by God in concept and even action. And with your son, I appreciate the question. Mm-hmm. I really do. I think that's awesome, Lindsay. But I would be a little cautious of what I said around your son, with this concept, and say, hey, listen, little Johnny, whatever. Little Johnny gets the conversation all the time, but little Johnny, listen, man, God's just delaying great things for you. It's cool. Yeah, it's awesome. It's cool. Fine. No worries, man. It's in time. It will happen. Don't worry about it. It could happen tomorrow. We just got to be ready. It's going to be all right, and, do your research. You're doing a lot of good things, Lindsay, with those supplements. Those are exactly right. I think those are ideal. You're doing a great job. Just keep believing and know that it's going to be all right.
I had a friend a long time ago who's, I think she was maybe 9 years old, and she was a little bit overweight. And this friend was worried about her daughter, 10 years old. She's still a little bit overweight. And she started putting her daughter on all of these diets, right? At 10 years old. And I'm telling you, by the time that girl's 16, she was just a whisper away from anorexia, because she had been from her mom. And Lindsay, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. Okay. So don't read anything into this, because that's not the point. No. But I saw the influence that this mom had on her daughter. And she was trying to love her daughter, but she ended up giving her a complex. Well, she turned 16 years old and she's on every diet. You can imagine what was crazy is right around 15, she had a growth spurt. And all of that sort of weight that she had carried as a young girl really just went away. But she was left with this emotional and mental picture that when she looked in the mirror, what she saw wasn't right. And I think as parents, we need to be very, very careful, the messages that we send to our children, because they're like a tape, and your kids are going to put that on, repeat. And I've seen it a lot. I don't know if you've seen it in your practice, but I've seen it over here.
Yeah, all the time. Parents saying things like this, and, think about two sisters. I wish you were skinny like your sister.
Oh boy, yeah.
I've watched adults that carry childhood wounds that have destroyed their ability to have a functional life. I watched them carry those into their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. I see it all the time. And they still have unresolved issues there. And so we have to work through them with this, from the standpoint of parents, are not perfect. So we got to talk about the forgiveness aspect.
Right, absolutely.
We'll talk about learning to love self again and realize that, you are here now,
absolutely true,
not living back there.
Yeah.
We sometimes let our past dictate our future, but instead of just a reference point. So I see it all the time. Yes.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think we have an opportunity when our kids are young, especially when they're young, just to be, where do we get all this, gender idiocy from? Well, it's been projected onto our children, and it shows you how vulnerable children are to messages that come from adults in their lives about what they should be or what they should look like. And so as parents, we just have an obligation to just continue to shower our kids with truth. And the truth is, our kids come to us beautiful, and God has a plan and a purpose, and we want to help them become everything that they can be. But boy, it's a great reminder, Mark, just to fill our kids with biblical truth. So important. One more question came from Stacy, and I feel like maybe we answered this question before, Mark, but she has a 15-year-old daughter diagnosed with POTS. Her doctor didn't offer much to help manage it. He said to get more sodium into her diet, help her stay hydrated. What are your recommendations for getting more sodium into her diet? I'd like to not just give her a bunch of Gatorade. No, don't do that. No Gatorade. No. Any help on helping her manage this with diet or supplements would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, the whole idea that POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, that's what that is for people that are listening right now, that is going to be exacerbated and brought on by some sort of it gets brought on by a virus, gets brought on by trauma. Sometimes you see people talk about it got brought on by a vaccine, that virus being brought in there, but nonetheless, there's a lot you can do with this. When you talk about the sodium, I would go a little step further and say electrolytes. Electrolytes are not something to be found in Gatorade. Don't do that. That's just nothing but garbage. You don't need that sugar, because the sugar will make it worse.
Yes.
I would use something like, on our site you can get, Kingdom Energy. That's what I would do, frankly. It's got a lot of electrolytes, B vitamins, and it has no junk in it. So that's very effervescent, fizzy. It comes in orange and berry. It's great. I would also look at diet on this one, because you don't want to create more inflammatory action. So think anti-inflammatory foods. Again, processed foods, sugars, take those things out. That's really, really important to do that.
Really important. And stay encouraged, stay encouraged.
Yes.
Mark, I love listening to you, sitting over here, just dealing hope to people. You're so good at it. And if people want to reach out to you, yeah, see, I love that. You guys look at his band. I love it. If people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Well, they can reach out to us at sherwood.tv/Heidi. I like to know where people came from, and I consider the community we have here, the whole Heidi St. John's Off the Bench, podcast. It's a community that really has a great handle on life. And it's very encouraging. And so I'm honored to be a part of it. So I want to know where people came from. And we want to be a blessing to you where you are. I mean, you have a bunch of folks out there that are homeschool mamas. I talk to them all the time, and I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
And they need to be equipped with information to keep them healthy so that they don't have the distraction of disease and sickness and lack. Those are the main distractions of the enemy. So people can reach out to us, and we want to be a blessing in those areas to them.
I love that. Also, I'm going to give a little plug for your podcast. I've been watching your clips come through social media with you and Dr. Michelle. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's called Furthermore. We kind of took that from the kind of spin off of the Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. We wanted to say, and furthermore.
And furthermore. And another thing.
Yeah, another thing. Like, we want to give people another angle of stuff, maybe a third or fourth opinion of things. And they're little bite-sized pieces, little 7-minute clips that are in order, in different topics. And so my wife and I love doing it. We have a good time. And the clips are, a variety of subjects about all kinds of things in life. We talk about health, physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and even financially sometimes. So kind of fun. I appreciate that.
It's good. I love that. Dr. Mark Sherwood, you're a national treasure. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm a super fan. I appreciate you being here.
My honor. I'm glad to be your friend.
Likewise. All right, you guys, that's it for today. I want to say a closing thank you to our sponsor. I want to say thank you to TUVU. They are creating and have created an awesome social media platform for you guys to check out. If you're sick of all the ads and all the garbage and all the curated garbage that you see over at Facebook and Instagram and everything else, join TUVU. And you can experience a social media company that actually cares about what comes through your feed. They're never going to sell your content. You guys are going to love it. You can join me by going to tuvu.com/Heidi. Get your first month free. After that, it's just $4.99 a month. You guys, it's worth it. Come on. I mean, I would have paid $4.99 a month to not see all the garbage that I see every time I log into Facebook. So check it out. And when you get to tuvu.com/Heidi, be sure and follow me when you get there. I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation with my friend, the wonderful one and only Dr. Mark Sherwood. And you can find out more about him by going to sherwood.tv/Heidi. You guys, they have great supplements there. They have all kinds of things. Kingdom Fuel. They have Kingdom Candy. They've got, oh my goodness, they have cereal that I just got on my house the other day that's phenomenal. I should have told Mark, it got smashed in my driveway, but that's okay. I ate it anyway. Good stuff. So you guys, check it out, sherwood.tv/Heidi. You guys have a great day. Love your people well, and I'll see you right back here again at the intersection of faith